You're listening to Edging the Truth.
With over 50% of the world undiscovered, vast forests, dense vegetation, there's more than enough opportunity for our topic to exist. However, I think that even without hard evidence, I believe there's plenty of examples that have to bring me to say there's definitely a Bigfoot. I know that a lot of people in our group here may not believe in such a figure. I know that they may believe that he may have existed at one time, or they may believe that he didn't exist at all. But it is hard for me to say that without a shadow of a doubt that this creature does not exist. In 2013, Zubuk, which is the non-government agency, if you will, that determines whether a creature, a new species, gets a name, actually gave a name to Bigfoot, a scientific name, right? So this is unbeknownst to anything else, right? They typically will not give a scientific name until it is a proven creature, which means that they believe that there's been enough evidence that this thing exists. Not to mention, you have hundreds, maybe even thousands of examples where people have reached out, have told stories, have given examples, all that are very similar to pictures. Tall, hairy, smelly, aggressive, massive. All the things that describe our one true missing link, Bigfoot. There's also Bigfoot cousins all over the world. You've got them in Canada, Nepal, Australia, China, Indonesia, where Bigfoot or Bigfoot-like creatures exist. There's been videos, photographs, footprints all over the world. And while some will say some of these pictures, some of these videos, they're not proven, some can't not be proven. And where does the burden of proof really lie? In my opinion, I have to agree with Jane Goodall. And Jane Goodall is a reprise doctor of primates. And I agree with the fact that even in our world, that as a romantic person, I have to believe that Bigfoot does exist. So here we are for episode number 2 of Edging the Truth. Bigfoot. Does he exist? I'm going to bring in my colleagues here. I've got Red Rasmus, our David Marriott. I don't know your last name, actually.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Good.
Marriott, like the hotels.
Yeah, Marriott. We got Marriott, Brian Shenanigan. And we got Andy Hopper. And here we are to discuss Bigfoot. I'm going to throw it over to Andy. Andy, you got first dibs. What do you think? Is he real?
No. I don't know, man. I'm going to be honest. I didn't do a lot of research on this topic just because I'm like pretty skeptical and you were really talking up your research. So I really wanted to hear what you had to say. What I did look up, though, was an article from the History Channel about an investigation the FBI did into Bigfoot. So it's back in the 70s. One of the leading Bigfoot researchers in the world, Peter Byrne. He was the director of the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition in the Dalles, Oregon. So he sent the FBI about 15 hairs attached to a tiny piece of skin. And he wrote that his organization couldn't identify what kind of animal it came from and was hoping the FBI might analyze it. The FBI was kind of taken aback a little bit by this because they're like, we solve crimes and we look into like shit that matters. We don't usually analyze anything unless it's like in the name of like scientific research or whatever. So anyway, after some apprehension, they end up analyzing this piece of skin and hair, and they conclude that it was the hairs of a deer, or like they're in the deer family origin, something like that. So I guess not really like conclusive evidence. They said it's not Bigfoot, but I think that was just some deer hair that these fucking kooks mailed into the FBI to try to get some identification. So there is kind of like a little gray area here, at least in this story. So Peter Byrne, I guess, was out of the country at the time that the FBI claims that they sent their findings back to the whatchamacallit, the Bigfoot Crazy Person Center in Oregon. And
the
Institute, Bigfoot Crazy Person Institute. Thank you, Brian. And so apparently Byrne was out of the country, so he doesn't remember ever receiving this letter. So this was like 77, 78, like late 70s when this was going down, really when this whole Bigfoot thing was a lot more popular than it is now. Somebody please fucking answer their phone. Also, so anyway, the FBI actually released these findings to the public in 2019. That is when this article that I read is from. And Byrne was 93 years old at the time. He doesn't remember ever receiving the FBI's response. Could that be because he's old and already crazy because he believes in Bigfoot? That's for us to decide. But as in 2019, when the FBI released this, I even saw it. It's a case file. They mailed the hairs back to him and everything. You can look it up. He acted like this was the first time he was hearing anything about it. So, like, the super crazy Bigfoot people are going to be like, they love the idea, the smoking gun of the FBI investigation, the FBI files. Like, there must be something there because the FBI wouldn't have actually taken it seriously or done anything if they didn't believe it. But I don't know. That's really as much as I got at this point. Is that
that's as deep as you could go.
I don't think it's real. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll just definitely agree that we always should believe the government. So 100% there. Brian, what do you think?
All right. I am a man of science. And science is a thing that must be proven to me. And let's just start at the start. All right. Can we just start at poop? I'm just going to start at poop. Okay. We have poop from dinosaurs. They found this is dinosaur poop. We haven't found any Bigfoot poop. They poop. Everybody poops. We found no Bigfoot bones. We got once again, we have dinosaur bones. You're telling me in all this time we have no Bigfoot bones? Like, come on. It's poop and bones. Everything leaves it and we can't find it. And some people, I've read theories, people are like, well, maybe they eat their dead or they eat the bones. It's like, come on, bro. Come on. So like all the Bigfoots die together. No Bigfoot's been a solo loner douchebag Bigfoot off by itself that died by itself that nobody ate. Like, come on. It's like, it's just, there's no scientific evidence. Have they found Cro-Magnon evidence? Have they found evidence of human beings from like the dawn of time? Yes, all over the place. And are some of them in a Neanderthal or ape-like transitionary evolutionary state? Yes. But we found those bones. We know those things exist. We have not found no Bigfooted bones at all. Period. Bones and poop. Bones and poop. If there ain't no bones and poop, it don't exist. And that's my short essay on Bigfoot, which I appreciate. Can I just say, like, can I appreciate the short essay that you gave us off the top? It felt very, very wonderfully book reporty. It was very well thought out. It was reasoned.
Well,
but what is the name? If they assigned a name, what is the name? Do we? You couldn't find it.
It's Homo sapiens cognatus, and that is the actual name for.
He made the homo, I guess. We at least got the erect and upright. So
once he is proven, he'll be the only creature that will not need a scientific name because he already has one.
Right,
they don't take lightly giving out scientific names.
And I would just like to point out modern technology and like that we've had trail cams for the 30 years.
Modern technology that couldn't prove that there were ghosts
and like we got the United States of space. And I think we can find some fucking Bigfoots in the colonies.
I don't know if the trail cam argument is a good one, Brian, because there have been people that have like claimed Bigfoot. They've caught Bigfoot on camera or had pictures or whatever.
That's
recently, I just saw, like, when I was doing research, there was an article from like 2 days ago where like that fucking stupid Finding Bigfoot show just went to Michigan because somebody, but it was like, this is a trail cam photo from 2012. Unfortunately, the guy just passed away in April, so we can't talk to him to get the story. It's like, seems very, very convenient. Not making light of anybody passing away. That's not what I'm trying to say here.
Well, and it's the same with the Super 8 footage, the classic photo that everybody's seen of Bigfoot. That's old school film, right? Like there's no wizardry going on, and there's definitely no fakery unless it's a dude in a suit. And you look at the stills from that, and it doesn't. I mean, even now, it doesn't look like a dude in a suit. That's the most elaborate suit that a couple of dudes out in the middle of nowhere would have ever put together. It seems to me like, there is, like I said, before we started, I'm very much on the fence because, as you pointed out, there's in almost every culture, in the world, there's some kind of version of this, right? Like you think of the Yeti in Nepal, right? Like similar kinds of legends and stories. And Chupacabra. I mean, you got all kinds of these. Again, is it Sasquatch? Is it Bigfoot? I know One Lung and I, we live in real Bigfoot country. Like, Andy, you mentioned this research center in the Dalles. That's, 20 minutes, a half an hour from where One Lung lives, right? I've driven by it on the highway. It's, it's a real thing. And the people behind it are very serious about it. But it is also just like the Trees of Mystery and the Mystery Spot. These are roadside attractions too, and they're there to sell and make money and do all those things. The story that I was going to tell related to this, my grandfather was an avid hiker, was hiking in the Olympics 100 years ago at this point, and spent a portion of every month of his life hiking in the Olympic Mountains. Certainly one of the places that Bigfoot would exist if he existed. And I checked with both my siblings, and we've all confirmed there were no Bigfoot stories in my grandfather's many thousands of stories. So, he saw bears and he saw all kinds of stuff in the mountains. Never saw Bigfoot, never had a thought cross his mind that it existed, which that in and of itself was enough to make me go, well, okay, maybe not. But it's like, also like Brian said, how do these things reproduce? Like, there have to be two. And if there are two, then the odds of seeing one goes way up. And if we haven't seen one, then there's probably not two. And if there's not two, then there's definitely not more.
Interesting points.
Nor have we seen a baby Bigfoots in all of the lore ever.
And don't say the Grinch.
So
who says the Grinch is a baby Bigfoot? Is that another conspiracy theory? Do we have to do an episode on baby Grinch?
I'm throwing it out there.
Bigfoot baby Grinch.
No, if you're thinking about what a baby Bigfoot would look like, I would say the baby Grinch is similar, just green.
Just green. Yeah.
There was a report of a family of Bigfoot as well, though. Not that long ago.
Family Foots. Okay.
There was a whole family of Bigfoot. So it's not just that there's one out there.
Where was the family of feet at?
Let me find it real quick. 1 second. I had it.
The family of feet.
Got the
family of feet. Yeah. 1994, a former U.S. Force patrolman.
Did you say 1994?
Claimed he saw a family of Bigfoot.
You said this was recently. You just you led that this was recently.
Well, 94 is
alive.
We just recently saw a family.
I wasn't even alive yet.
That's wasn't even born yet.
That was
so recent, you guys.
94 is
7 years
pretty quick.
And once again, I haven't looked that deep into it, but is there has anybody captured cell phone footage of a Bigfoot? Same as with the ghost, with new technology, have we captured a Bigfoot in new? Is there a TikTok with a Bigfoot in it?
Where's the thermal cameras?
There's not a Bigfoot doing the latest TikTok dance.
Guys, I got this Bigfoot, and they fucking would throw that shit on TikTok so fast. I mean, come on, look at this. This Bigfoot's gonna whip and then nay. Come on, you guys.
I'll be the first to say that there is a likelihood that the Bigfoot doesn't exist, right? because there is evidence that is lacking to prove that Bigfoot does exist. But when I take all the things in the world and realize that on a yearly basis, 20 new species are found every year, 20 new species, and with 50% of the world undiscovered, there's likelihood that Bigfoot still exists. Now, does he exist in a large population in the Western United States where me and Red live? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, we have a lot of evidence that says that people have seen Bigfoot here, but that doesn't mean that he's a huge population here, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't exist at all. And what I want to bring up is the fact that in our U.S. justice system, in order to
What?
no, in our U.S. justice system, in order to provide evidence against somebody that committed a crime, you only need 2 eyewitnesses, right? And in some cases, just 1. And here we are. We have a creature that's been spotted hundreds of times by many different people with the same descriptor, and we're all just going to say, meh, he doesn't exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
I mean, did you just
I
bring
mean,
up the
I'm
Law and
not-
Order? Did you just Law and Order fucking Bigfoot? That you need to, if you have a justice system, if you have 2 witnesses,
Ding, ding.
you know the
I'm
Bigfoot
just
is
saying that,
In
like,
the criminal justice system, one hairy man rules
Bigfoots.
all.
and you know
he will
why?
throw rocks at
And you
you.
know why that they all have that same description? Because they heard that description from someone else. And they have no other frame of reference. That's what it
Executive
looks like.
producer
Well,
Dick
right.
Wright.
There is a lot of hairy animals out there, and people do not realize how big they are until they are out there. Everybody's like, "Holy shit! I didn't realize how big a moose was till I saw a moose."
Have you
It's the
watched the
same with all that.
1967 video of the Bigfoot video? Have you watched it?
Yeah.
I didn't know
you
there
can
was
tell
one
me
in
that
1960.
But I
that
haven't.
looks
But I
like
haven't
a
watched.
bear?
But I sure as hell haven't watched any videos since then. So
Well, you should go watch some videos.
and videos have gotten a lot better.
I think that film is still arguably
It's-
one of the
it's-
most convincing pieces of evidence. I mean, I remember that being a huge deal when I was a little kid, and Leonard Nimoy on Nova or In Search of, or one of those shows, doing a Bigfoot episode, and that footage obviously has always been the central kind of crux of proof. And it's not really proof; it's documentation, right? Supposedly, and therefore supposedly means that there's proof of existence. But back to what the whole concept of how people do these eyewitnesses, it's the same kinds of stories with aliens, right? It's always the same kinds of descriptors. And so there's, on the one side, you go, well, because the descriptors are all the same, they must be real. They all have to be seeing the same thing. And then on the flip side, it's, but because they all saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or they all read Communion, or they all saw
They all heard somebody
stupid,
else's alien story.
yeah, they all saw the same stupid sci-fi movies. And which, brings me to the difference between that and this, to me, is that with Bigfoot, we don't have that body of pop culture work. We have references, and the Harry and the Hendersons is certainly not any attempt to be
the finest Bigfoot movie of our time.
yeah. but that's what I'm saying. Like, everything else is this kind of abstract depiction and not ever really about Bigfoot, right? Fuck, the Sonics had the Squatch, as their mascot, and it was the Harry and the Hendersons thing.
Jack Wings.
It was more like Teen Wolf than it was like a Sasquatch,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a little different because of that lack of visual reference. But at the same time, that footage is such a strong visual reference that if you're of a certain age or older, you can't have not seen that footage. And if you're somebody who's investigating Bigfoot, you're 100% viewing that footage. Probably first and
You
foremost.
fucking Zapruder film that. You like second
Yeah.
gunman that footage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the thing you hang your hat on with all that stuff. And
think
still,
that-
it looks good.
Yeah. I think that with the millions of acres of forest in our world, that it is completely possible that if a creature that maybe there's only 100 of them that exist, and they die in the forest somewhere, I think there's still a good shot that we have not found their bones yet. I mean,
Well, yeah. And I think
honestly,
both,
unless you know where to look, I mean, it's not like we're out in a desert digging up a desert looking for a Bigfoot like they do dinosaur
Yes.
bones.
Yeah, right.
I would also like to point out that forest was everywhere before we cut it down, and where Bigfoot, if a Bigfoot was everywhere before we cut down said forest, their bones would have been found as we cut down, and as we found dinosaur bones and all other assorted bones for so many years, is because man cut that shit down and found it. And so you're telling me in all the developed Pacific Northwest and all the woods they cut down over all these millennia that nobody ever found a fucking Bigfoot bone? Or thought it was a human bone and investigated further? I mean,
you're totally right. But let's not forget that most of these places, like the Cascades and the Olympic Mountains, they are national parks. They have not been cut down. There have not been excavations in these places.
Oh, so the Bigfoots are geographically isolated to areas we've chosen as national parks?
No, I'm saying that it just so happens that the geographic places in this area are national parks. So it's like, okay, well, yes, you can say, yeah, absolutely. There's, look at the rainforests in Brazil, how the massive rates that they've been cut down. And you go, yeah, if there was a creature, you'd expect to find it because they've destroyed that country's trees, right? But you can't say that about the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State or the Cascades for that matter, because it's protected land, right? The government 100 years ago said we're not messing with that. So it creates, I mean, if you wanted to argue for this, it creates the perfect system for nobody to go fuck with it. Right? Like it's isolated. They're not going to send excavators out there looking for burial grounds and things like that. It's going to just stay that way forever. Now, granted, yes, that example only applies and works in this state. You transfer this to other places where Bigfoot is supposedly existing, and that doesn't translate. But in my neck of the woods, where I think of Bigfoot being from, that's the way my young brain, my childhood brain was like, well, they could live up there because nobody goes up there. Nobody goes up to the top of Mount Rainier, not 30 years ago. Now they do.
Like where the Grinch lived.
Exactly. Exactly.
What if we just put...
We're conditioned to think about this.
But what if we just put like our own mind concepts around Bigfoot, and we're saying that in our mind, Bigfoot lives the exact number of years as humans live. They do exactly what human life kind of does, right?
Yeah, Bigfoot fucks for sure.
What if
Bigfoot be fucking?
Yeah, he'd be. But what if he lived longer than 100 years or 200 years? Like, what if their lifespan is longer than what our lifespans are, and then we just haven't found a dead one yet?
That's the argument for Loch Ness, right? That it's super, super, super.
All right, let's not get into Loch Ness. That's dumb. Like, he's in a lake, okay? He's in a lake. There's no way that guy.
So
there's no way that guy doesn't
about a
exist.
potential dinosaur being
This
alive.
fake sea monster is so much more dumb than this fake hairy
he's in a
creature.
lake.
But
There's no way.
This is the big question with the big word time, cryptozoology. This field is a rough one because it skirts this line between myth, legend, and provable fact. And in most cases, there's no proof. It's conjecture. And what proof there is used to legitimize the perpetuation of the myth, right?
Sure.
Whether that's the Jersey Devil or whatever. Bigfoot has obviously been around long enough that it's not going anywhere, and it's not going in, and that's not just here. That's around the country, around the globe, right? We talked about these other places where these thoughts exist. They're definitely not going away in those places. Like you're not going to go to Nepal and say, "Hey guys, sorry that the Yeti doesn't exist." That's like blasphemy.
Fuck your Yeti, bitch.
Right? Yeah. So all of that part of it to me makes it more interesting. That well, there's still a seed, right? There's still a kernel that this stuff all started with, and I'm more interested in what that is. What is this the kernel of truth that started the idea of there being a Bigfoot? Because it certainly isn't this footage
Right.
from the 60s, right? Like it predates all of that stuff. So the concept comes from something before that, and the idea comes from something
Well,
before that.
It all goes back to the the monster in the woods, the all that
Well,
kind of stuff just kind of leads into that. There's always a mythos about some kind of giant creature that's out there to get you or whatever, or
Krampus.
but that's the whole thing. It's there's a lot of just folklore that kind of can cross over like this potentially of the giant ape in the woods, the creature in the woods.
Yeah.
Even just a story of like an escaped gorilla can escalate into all of a sudden there's a whole population in the woods, and like it's stuff like that. And it's just stories get out of hand, and then they're passed on, and then stories can transition from stories into more than stories.
So, I mean, what I found, this shit goes back like a really long time. It's like different cultures, different people have believed this. Like it even goes back to, the Algonquin Indians, which is kind of like a north central region. So kind of near me in Illinois, because there is Algonquin, Illinois, actually, where I've got some family that lives there. But anyway, they believed that a Wetiko or Wendigo, Wendigo, yeah. So it was like a large creature, much like a man, imbued with special powers and characteristics that they would believe are the Ojibwe of the northern plains believed the Rugaru appeared in times of danger, and other nations agreed that the hairy apparition was a messenger of warning, telling man to change his ways. So it's always kind of been this mystical, like people believed it since Native American times, before we like modern civilization around here. So that obviously gets passed down. I mean, North American settlers also started reporting sightings in the late 1800s into the 1900s. This is what I'll tell you. Bigfoot does exist in a very real sense. The Western Air Defense Sector, Washington Air National Guard, adopted the mascot of Bigfoot and operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I knew that, yeah.
So there is the only place I'll agree with you that it exists.
I do want to bring up one other point, though, to the fact of people describing Bigfoot, right? So Bigfoot's been around way longer than Twitter, Facebook, any type of internet, any media source, and even back to the early times, you had people's stories rolling in, and their depictions of this creature were eerily similar, right? So they didn't talk to each other beforehand. They didn't have a preconceived notion of what this creature would be or how it was supposed to look. Yet their depictions of this creature were very similar. And you can say what you want about whether or not, maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe they both saw a bear and they look the same.
Well, I mean, that bear argument is the argument. I mean, like it goes back to my animals are bigger than you think there are. And if it's at night or in like a weird lighting, or you only got a quick glance because your ass got all panicked and jacked up on fucking body juices and ran, like it's if you see a bear standing upright, it sure as hell fucking looks like a person to you at the time, and especially if it's giant. But I mean, let's just even stick with that. I mean, because a lot of the things with Bigfoot too is we project this whole culture and lifestyle that Bigfoot has all these rituals and buries or eats their dead and all this stuff. And also you're telling me that in all this time, Bigfoot never just got sick and died, and they wouldn't eat a sick dead Bigfoot, you don't think, or that all the Bigfoots would die.
I'm not saying that didn't happen. I just said we didn't find him yet.
Or that no animals have ever eaten or killed a Bigfoot and eaten it. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like a bear has not, and that we haven't found.
Yeah.
How are we gonna know that?
In a bear den?
Buy a car.
Or like when somebody shot a bear, they got the contents and they found like a Bigfoot hand in there. I mean, there's just so many fundamentals of nature that Bigfoot has to defy. We never found a Bigfoot charred in a forest fire, or they never got fucking frozen out in a cold snap. There's stuff that's so cold it kills all the stuff that's outside. So I mean,
Question.
Yes, Mr. Delafudgens?
You don't have an ex that made you go fuck trying to find Bigfoot, do you?
Yeah, I actually had it.
Is this why you don't believe in it? Because
No,
you had such a bad.
I did actually date a girl who was very into. We did go to the institute. We did rock up there. We saw the fucking plaster feet. We saw there what they say is the Bigfoot poops. We saw the stuff that they had there. I've been out in the woods. I went on those fucking Bigfoot tour things once again with this broad, you know. So it's
was this with the same ghost broad?
No, different broad. This was a
Where do you find these people?
This was a new broad,
hippie, crystally, Bigfooty chick that likes to be outside and sometimes shave things.
Did you say big-footed chick? Does she like? Does she have big feet too?
She did not have big. She did not have big feet. It was just a lot of times she had unshaven legs,
like hobbit.
So
Brian found the Bigfoot.
There was definitely some 70s Bigfooting action happening there. So
what if her middle name was Sasquatch? That's besides the point.
I think her middle name was like a Centinela or something like crazy. Like her parents were like some crazy hippies.
Shout out.
So I want to pose this question to you guys then, right?
No.
So I think we all kind of know where everybody stands. I think Red's solely on the fence. Brian and Andy I would say, don't believe at this point.
I want to say
Science.
I'm going to say no right now, but if you like, I want hard physical evidence. I'm not
so that's my question.
I'm open to believing it's real, but I have. There's been nothing to prove to me that it's like actually real. I've seen. I mean, we've all seen the grainy footage. I just went back and watched it right now, where at the start where it's all shaky and you're like, what the fuck am I watching here? And then finally, you know, obviously the dude's like running, trying to get it. That is pretty compelling. You know, it is from 1960, whatever. Who cares?
67.
I said, who cares? And, you know, it's like looking back, believed to be a female Bigfoot, by the way.
Brian, you can hit that.
But that's just like, no, Brian would love to hit that.
You don't think I wouldn't even just for the story alone? Come on,
fellas.
You just be like I was the
how
first
many
guy
beers?
that banged a Bigfoot. Come on.
You see a female Bigfoot.
Where's that guy?
walking
There
by.
has
How
to be
many
that guy
beers?
out there that says
You guys
banged
would see the end of Harry and the Hendersons, right? You see, there is a female Bigfoot at the end of that, as I recall.
Yeah, I mean that is well. Oh, okay. Then it's real. If
You can
we're
still find
basing
that
everything,
suit.
we're
You can
basing,
still
we're
find that
basing
Bigfoot
everything
suit
off
in
of
that
Harry
area
and
in
Henderson.
Hollywood.
I do want to say this one thing you keep bringing up, which I'm curious about, this is a genuine question, but I'm also kind of being a dick. You say 50% of the world is undiscovered. How much of that? Okay, that was my question. I was about to say, how
Trust
much
me,
of that is
I
ocean?
researched
Unless
that.
your Bigfoot is
I knew
aquatic.
someone was gonna say that because I'm like,
Unless you got an
I'm not talking about
aquatic
the
Bigfoot,
ocean.
you know?
Yeah.
Because I think if you include the ocean, I believe that like over 67% of the world is class.
Because that was my question. Is like you keep saying all these species found every day. How many of those are fish that we just like?
The
didn't
most
know
recent
about or
actually was a
whatever?
bat. It was a hairy little bat.
Wuhan.
So, but here's my question for you guys, right? So we kind of know where everybody stands. What is one piece of evidence other than out and out seeing a Bigfoot? What is your top piece of evidence that would take you from not believing to believing? Other than out and out just finding a Bigfoot.
Your bones. I'm
Poop and
with
bones. I'm all poop and bones. You show me Bigfoot poop, Bigfoot bones. Because, like I said, there should be a fuck ton of Bigfoot poop. All right.
Remains.
All that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
bones. Just for and like there said, if there is actually a bunch of them out there enough to sustain a species over X amount of years, there's just has to be a fuck ton of bones. Because we're talking about a creature that's been around for longer than us, or as long as us. You know what I'm saying? Like just simple numbers game. No matter how long lived they are, they still live a few hundred years. Fine. That still doesn't take away the fact that they've been there for thousands potentially. And if they've been alive that long, like I said, there was a lot of other bigger creatures that were alive in that same time frame that would have killed those motherfuckers, and there would have been bones. So it's just it's I like I said, I don't need to see a live Bigfoot. Just give me the science. Give me the bones. There's
Give me
there's a reason why
signs.
the regular museum does not have Bigfoot impressions and Bigfoot poop samples, because
The
that shit
regular
is not in the
museum.
regular museum. The funded by our taxes museum.
The one in New York, like you see in all the movies. That one.
There wasn't a Bigfoot in the fucking Night at the Museum.
Night at
with the Ben
Museum.
Stiller.
Ben Stiller wasn't chasing.
There was a
fucking
Cro-Magnon,
Sasquatch.
but there was no Bigfoots. Just saying. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Just show me the science. Show me the science.
It was always Bigfoot.
And ghosts aren't real.
It was always Bigfoot.
And ghosts aren't real. Fuck you, Brian. That's not the episode.
Oh, sorry.
You got to wait till that comes back around, and it is coming back around.
We're definitely gonna have to get back to that. Who goes next? One long.
We'll go with Red Rasmus.
What am I answering? What evidence do I need?
Yeah.
Yeah. For bones, I feel like would be good. Just any kind of reasonable physical evidence that has been analyzed by somebody of indisputable repute.
Of
So not
science
government.
No
people.
bias.
Yeah. I mean,
Not our government. Yeah.
I would need. Well, I mean, the government is fine, but also like 2 or 3 other corroborating tests. Like with science, you need to replicate. If somebody
Second
like,
opinion.
if somebody clones a pig and they're like, I learned how to clone a pig, and then they can't do it again, then it's not.
Then that's just a
proven,
normal
right?
pig.
You
Yeah.
have to be able to replicate.
That's just a
I
normal
think-
pig.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to be able to replicate it, right? So I feel like the test results need to be replicatable. That if I tested it and you tested it and they tested it and we all came to the same result, that's pretty indisputable at that point. And
Okay.
regardless of what it is, whether it's blood or bones or hair or some other bodily fluid,
Give me anything.
anything that is.
Anything. Give me a Bigfoot toe.
And I know the
Yeah,
museum
that's
is
it.
full of stuff like that, but I have a feeling the vast majority of it has been dropped off by a discoverer and said, "Here, Bigfoot Museum, take this," and that's the end of it. They go,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, but now we got Bigfoot hair." Well, really? Are you sure? I mean, are you really, really, really sure? Because if you want people to believe that this is real, then you need something. You need it to be tested by people that are gonna stand up to that. You know what I mean? That their test results over a decade in the business and blah 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 blah.
In the business.
Yeah, right. This is why we do fucking
I'm in
Ernst
the
Young.
business.
What
We
do you know
do-
about that foot biz?
You know
Yeah.
how long I've been in this business, you guys. You don't even know. You don't
Yes,
even know.
exactly. It's the reason we do the Ernst and Young, at the Oscars or whatever. Like they are the most trusted
They're
accountants.
indisputable.
Right? They're not your guy
Indisputable.
down the street. They're like
They're
they
not going
have
to let the results out before they come out. Yes, yes.
Exactly
A
right.
trusted entity is what you
Yes,
need.
thank you for the verbiage. Yes, exactly.
All right,
that's
Andy.
all. That's all I need.
What do you need?
I need to open a fucking bag of Jack Link's beef jerky and have the fucking Sasquatch show up.
I think that's
Just
accurate and
like the
doable.
ads.
I think
Can we
that's
get some
accurate.
Jack Links? Can we get some Jack Links in here?
Yeah. No, I think Brian and Red really nailed it on the head. You need bones, you need poop. I mean, sometimes I am a sucker for that, that catching it on video or even just like a legit non-grainy where it's this is trail cam footage and he's fucking 100 yards away behind this tree where it's like, oh, it's all one color. Well, could it be a guy wearing all camo walking through the woods, setting up to his, tree, whatever,
Blind,
tree stand or blind, whatever. It's like, it's such a gray area. And I hate to be so negative on this in episode 2 after being so positive in something like Ghost, which is similar. You need that physical evidence, which to really believe in it. But I don't know. I know there's so many sightings, but like I think Brian made up a lot of good points. Like it's like we're just supposed to believe it's all in one like area of parks or whatever, one region. There are all these different cultures and different countries that have their versions of this as well. I'm open to it, but I gotta see something like hard physical. I need a video of it walking right by and looking at the camera. I need bones. I need poop. I need one of these motherfuckers to just walk out of the woods.
I'm excited for that day because I believe it will happen. Like one of these days, Bigfoot's gonna be like, "All right, I'm done with this shit. Here I am, motherfuckers."
I mean,
And
I
I
just
think-
feel like a Bigfoot should have been hit by a car by now at the very least.
Yes.
They never cross a roadway.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we've hit every animal there is, but a Bigfoot, like, come on.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you about you guys. Have you ever watched the Bigfoot shows, the TV
The
shows?
Finding Bigfoot all the time.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember I
Do
told
they-
you with the
do
girl
they-
and the sex?
Oh yeah, right. Do they ever find anything
Girl.
like what we're talking about? Do they actually ever find anything, or is it just following leads that don't go anywhere? Because a lot of those shows are like
It's
that.
They
and
hear some
shouting in the
things here
woods,
and there, but-
just shouting in the woods and thinking
Isn't
you
it
hear
just
the call
they-
of the Bigfoot.
They hear stories or whatever, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go to this place where somebody said they saw it.
They literally hear
you
a
gotta
tree
be-
falling
you
in the
gotta
woods
realize-
and go Bigfoot.
Here's the thing about those shows. They're not real quiet, right? They've got a huge production with them. So like, if you were gonna find a Bigfoot, I don't really feel like that's gonna be the way to do it. Like,
Oh no, I'm
you've
with
got
you.
you've got cameras on cameras, you've got people,
yeah,
you've got
but those
loud-
same Chewbacca's are out there without cameras doing the same hunt and stupid stuff as well, and they've probably been doing it for a long time and are still coming up short.
Sure.
That is
But they're-
for sure.
There are tons of examples where people didn't come up short though, but because they're out there by themselves and they're these Chewbaccas, as you would say, they don't have enough evidence to prove that what they saw is real. And so then they bring that stuff back to you and they're like, I saw this. I was out in the woods. I saw this. And you as a skeptic that's like, nah, you didn't bring me enough evidence. But that's how they get the evidence, is by being out there.
All right, well, this is my last point, and I'm just gonna say one word, and it's Indians. Okay, the Indians lived on this land forever before we kicked them out of it, and they hunted and tracked every kind of animal as part of
And
their
they have
lifestyle.
stories of Bigfoot.
They do.
But,
that is
but
true.
they never hunted and tracked them, and you know, if they did, that would have been like we'd have heard about that shit. Like somebody been like, I bagged the fucking Bigfoot, now I'm the chief kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? And we never heard any of that stuff. Like the young brave must go out and slay the Bigfoot and come back to take on tribe. You would have
Yeah.
heard that shit
From this.
because that's an ethos.
Seriously. I'm
and
not
that's the
Well,
whole
and
thing.
taking this one.
Not to mention
Jesus,
like
Anna.
Native American art. You know, they're like the stories of
It
all the
just-
different
it-
tribes. It's depicted in
it-
art and it's everywhere. And
but it's not. There's no other lore other than like that. There's a creature in the woods and nobody's ever got it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's a hunter gatherer culture, and nobody ever hunted and gathered it. So
Maybe. But I am of the belief that as a hopeless romantic, that my Bigfoot exists out there.
What do you want to fuck
I was
Bigfoot?
about to say this romantic Bigfoot.
No, I just love the idea of the
Now
story.
we
and
realize about Lung's
the
foot
lore.
fetish that's been hidden for so long.
no, that's all you, Brian. That's all you. But no, I am a firm believer that Bigfoot, if he doesn't still exist today, has existed in the recent past. I mean, I can't say 100% that they're not all dead at this point because we don't have a lot of active sightings as least recently. But within the last 15 years, we have, of course. Even I think as most recent as 2012 was the most recent picture of Bigfoot. So I think that Bigfoot did exist if he doesn't still today, and I think and I hope that one day we get to see him. So
I would love to see that get resolved in my lifetime. Like
I
which is
would
not-
too. Like I would if he's real. I'm not
I bear no
being-
ill will against the Bigfoot. You know what I'm saying?
I just
I understand he's just trying to live his life in these streets, you know, but like I just want to know, you know, say what's up, give him a little dap. You know what I'm saying? Like
you
just
do not. No, you don't. I just always there's no way you want to walk up to him and put your fist out.
not unless you want to lose it.
Thanks for
well,
the-
that's also
he-
you.
No,
never-
yes, he
you-
does. He
we've
goes, "Hey,
never-
thanks for the puss."
We've never had a person, try to approach. People want to touch everything, and you've never had anybody that tried to approach a Bigfoot and get their arm ripped off. I mean, that's that
only-
story as well.
Only if he took my jack links. So I think we've kind of beat the bush as much as we can here.
Yeah, we have.
If you're at the Bigfoot Institute, please contact
Please.
us and send us
Please
some
reach
evidence.
out.
We would love
Yeah.
to prove it
Tell
wrong.
us why we're wrong, especially
and-
me.
Help one lung get us on his side.
Exactly. Also, if you're listening to this podcast, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Is there evidence or a situation that you've had that maybe is a real life experience that you've had that you want to share with us? We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to even maybe talk to you about it on a future podcast. Anything else you guys would like to add?
Like this video, subscribe, follow us on all social media at Edging the Truth. Like One Lung said, comment. We want to hear your thoughts on what we just said. If you agree, if you disagree, and then tell us any potential topics. What do you want to hear us chop it up about? What do you want to hear us argue about? What do you want to hear Brian tell us about an ex-girlfriend to drag into something? I do want to add. So let's add this to the list. So obviously, as a group, hopefully one day we all get to go to somewhere that's haunted and do our own little investigation. And now we're going to have to come visit One Lung or Red and either go in the woods or go visit this fucking kook house.
We got to go to the research center.
Yeah, I think we should just
We
visit
got to
the
go to the
Cook House.
institute. Yeah,
let's go to the institute.
If you're going to Graceland to see Elvis, I mean, that's what you got.
Yeah.
Where you got to go. Like you got to go, and it's it's not that big. It's
Yeah.
we'll be in and out. It'll be a tight 20. We'll be in and out. In and out. It'll be good. We'll go have something. Some donuts and some other.
Strap a GoPro to one of us, or get somebody to film it, and
just be like,
that'll be some extra.
And we'll just go in. We'll turn around in a circle and be like, "You saw everything. Let's go."
All right. So we have One Lung. That'll be the whole video. One Lung is just super intent, like just agreeing everything we say, and then me and Brian are in the back, like, what the fuck, dude? Fucking believe.
Can we pull back the curtain?
Trying not to let. Like, okay, we get it, buddy. Speed this up. Red truly trying to be on the fence, just like, well, okay.
I want to believe.
Great episode, boys. This is awesome.
Dude. Well, I think that when Ron comes, we should all try to get together anyway, do like a Funch Bunch thing.
Yes.
And then maybe we take a day as a group and we go and we.
I think Ron would go to the Bigfoot Museum.
He might, yeah.
He likes a good conspiracy.
He does. Usually his conspiracies, though. I don't know if he likes Bigfoot, though. I don't know. I'd have to ask him.
I would love for him to flame the fuck out of you, thinking you.
Dude, he flames the fuck out of me all the time anyway.
I was gonna say that's nothing new. Yes,
I mean,
Even if he believed in it, he would still go at you.
We've known each other for so long that it doesn't even matter at this point. Because I'll flame the fuck right at him.
Doesn't even matter.
The problem is that he's so quick on his feet that even when I flame him, he turns it around so fast.
Oh no, yeah, you can't compete with that.
You can't do it, dog.
Yeah, I have a couple times, and those are my prize moments.
Yes, yes.
So,
anyway, let's get out of here.
On behalf of everybody here, I'm Dave. Thanks for listening to Edging the Truth.
Visit edgingthetruth.com for more information and links to all our social media and podcast directories.